All right, everybody, welcome into another edition. I believe this is episode 9 of At the Buzzer. You all know me. I'm the captain of this dysfunctional ship known as the Mo Money Sports Network. And with me, as always, is my co host for each and every one of these episodes. I just call him G. He doesn't bring the golf energy, and
You
that's
can
all you need to know.
you can call me your first mate. I'm ready to go into the deep seas here, buddy. We got some stuff to talk about. How you doing, man?
We got some big things to talk about. I'm
Yeah,
doing good. I told you a bit off air of how my day went, but I'm still smiling. I'm good.
there we go. In the face of adversity, we're still showing up. We're just planting that seed.
You bet. And speaking of adversity, this Los Angeles Lakers basketball court is atrocious.
yeah, oof. I I don't think it, it's gonna be a sell for next year in the way they think it is. I think they'll have
But
to
the
rebuild.
Jazz court being like straight purple is even worse.
Yeah, that was like you feel dizzy, and that's not cool.
Yeah, these courts need to go, man. That's the first thing I'm going to say on this podcast. These special NBA Cup courts have to go. There's no two ways about it for me. It's
Yeah.
And you know what? I will say that I will go as far to say it takes away from the game in the sense that it's a major distraction. You can't focus on the ball without looking at the court, and it's just a major distraction to me.
It's almost like playing in the weather conditions where there's both teams having to deal with it, but it's both are at a disadvantage. Uh, I remember, I think Luca would agree with you. He was not afraid to criticize the courts and stuff, and maybe a little bit too openly, considering, again, his court was the only one that didn't show up in the mail. Had Dallas there. Doesn't
And he
help
shot G's got
his
G
diva
Vegas Lakers
image.
gonna
Hey man, I'm not the guy that canceled the court coming into my stadium. That's a diva move, man. That's a diva move.
everybody's gotta play through it. That's just what I'm saying. That's what I'm
That
saying.
unless you're Luca, and their home court wasn't painted. That was their first home game thing, and they're like, "Yeah, our floor didn't show up. I couldn't fit it in or something."
Like in the old baseball stadium when the home team's losing and the lights go out in the ninth inning. Something shady's happening.
Hey, you got to respect competitors that are willing to go to all lengths compared to some that are willing to go none. And it brings us to the
Well, like
Raiders.
you said, G, we got a lot to talk about, and let's start with our home country Raptors, shall we?
Yeah, you kick it off. You give us a quick summary here, Mo.
I text you earlier in about the second quarter. I think it was just before halftime. I text you, and I said, "Gee, I'm running out of ways to say the same thing about this team that I've been saying for 6 weeks now, or 7 weeks, or 9 weeks, or however long this podcast has been going." I knew exactly what this team was before they even tipped it off this year. And I'm running out of ways to say the same thing over and over again.
So, if you had to break it down, what are the top three things that you feel you've had to repeat and are just the main problems with the Raps right now?
Slow starts,
Hmm.
lack of intensity, and quite frankly, they don't give a damn.
That's the one that gets me. If I was an Orlando Magic fan tonight, I'd be upset because I didn't even get a game. You know what I'm saying? The
That's
Raps
what I'm saying.
rolled over. That's not even a hunt. You just shot it from the helicopter.
That's what I'm saying though. This Okay, I'm an Oilers fan, right? And the Oilers are having a bad year on the NHL side. And the fact that it doesn't bother me to lose, it does bother me to lose, I'm not going to lie. But what bothers me more than losing is the lack of effort, the lack of, if you're going to lose, at least please give me an effort.
The way Jalen Suggs was playing, like he was just had a screw loose. Show me a bit of that. None of the Raptors have that. Like it's so passive. They played like the scrimmage team that your NBA team practices against. tonight. Like just these guys that are just chilling, passive. Like this isn't their time to be in tryouts. They're just pylons. Like and being super harsh because it just felt so passive. And I was looking for the fun to be had within a close game or even in maybe another comeback, but they really made that hard tonight.
And see, that's the thing. There's a lot of games where the Raptors don't even feel like they're in it.
Yeah. And we know that they can compete with that extra juice or even just ferocity of emotion and physical commitment to the showing up that day. But when the whole team just does this lackadaisical rollover, rinse and repeat thing, it's hard to watch sometimes.
I watch these games, and I do have the sound on for the Sportsnet crew and the TSN crew,
Mm.
and they say the stupidest things in the world on these broadcasts. For example, I was listening to it, and they were talking about Rodanovich or whatever the coach's name is.
Oh, yeah. I don't, Darko, I think something.
We'll just call him Darko because that's all. But anyways, they're
Mm-hmm.
sitting there talking about him, and they're like, "At what point do you start pulling everybody? Because you're down 20." And they're like, "You have to get your guys rest." They didn't play that hard tonight to begin with.
Exactly.
And here's the thing: this was right around the time Jakob Pertl fouled out in the fourth quarter, and Jakob had 10 points. Listen, if I'm paying somebody $20 million per season. And this is my big thing with Jakob, and I'm gonna say it over and over again until April when the Raptors miss the playoffs. Jakob
Yeah.
was overpaid tremendously.
Yeah.
Tremendously.
Yep. Yep. I think people were misguided in including myself on that. I wanted to give him some real benefit of the doubt and see how he fit in the new system. I've seen him miss more layups than a big man's legally allowed to in the NBA. They'll banish you for missing as many as he's missed. Like it was hard one game to watch him go 1 for 6 on missed post up plays that weren't that difficult challenge shots. Just the inconsistency again for $20 million is not a fair deal.
And people will say it's not Jakob's fault that they gave him the money. And to a certain extent, you're right. But you took the money, so with the money comes expectation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not whether or not you're good enough to hold up to those expectations. You took the expectation when you signed the contract.
Mm-hmm. And you can't tell me you're not strong enough to grab a board for when a guy that's half your size, Jalen Suggs, can just rip it out of your hands. It's not a matter of strength or talent at that point. It's will and just being present in the game and together and gritty. And Raptors, man, oh, this was an embarrassing, sad dud of a game.
Yes,
And I
but
hate
how
being so
many
negative with this podcast, but it's hard to call anything but a duck if you see a duck.
here's my question though, G, and that is this. The Raptors have now played, I don't know how many games has the Raptors played. The Raptors, by my count, are now 6-8
15?
in the East. Maybe
Mm,
6-9 if the app hasn't updated yet, because sometimes they don't update correctly.
yeah. I got to make sure it was
But
as bad as we thought.
but let's be generous. Let's say they're 6-8 because that's what the app says.
Mm,
Of these 6-8 of these 14 games, how many times have you and I come out here? And I'm not talking about the Raptor rundowns. I'm not talking about the podcast. How many times have you and I just been legitimately texting and been like, "We're so disappointed in this team."
more,
Night,
more than not,
how many nights have you and I sat here and go, "We deserve better," and not, we're not even asking for wins. We're asking for better effort.
man, 100%. Let me pitch this at you. We could have had Desmond Bain in the draft. The Raptors could have had him. Imagine having a guy like that And instead of Pirtle, you had, gosh, I don't know, just anybody that had a bit more of that get up. Jalen Suggs, even, and this is maybe going to my other point with Scotty Barnes, is he's doing what the Raptors do. He's playing down to his quality of his team. And when his team is getting into this passive game on, game off, half on, a quarter, a half off, like he can drop 20 in a quarter, and he barely put in 10 tonight and just got out rebounded by Jalen Suggs. I bring up Jalen
And
Suggs
so can
again.
Pascal.
Yeah.
These guys can play.
Yeah.
These guys
But
can
not
play.
every.
But the problem is they're part-time players.
Hmm.
I hate to I hate
Yeah.
to be so blunt on the podcast, but they're part-time players, the Raptors.
Man, what else do you call it when your star player getting paid? Again, how much is Pascal getting paid? 30, 40 million
38
dollars a year?
million? 38 million?
Man, there's CEOs that put up a better defense
And
making
I
that
just
much
want
money.
to
Like his non putting a shooting arm up over, I can't remember who it was that hit the shot over him. Oh, Suggs again. Suggs took it to Pascal one on one. Pascal just watched him shoot and didn't even contest with an arm in the face. It was just like the saddest moment. And sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say to illustrate the point of how bad this Raptor team is. Tonight's score was 126 to 107. They lost by 19 points again.
And it was never close. Like the 11, a distant feeling 11 was as close as it got. And it wasn't 11 for long before it was 15 and then back to 19. Like they called, I've never seen a team called Mercy this early, like without having a Kevin Durant or a Steph Curry type of injury that you're trying to manage. For them to call it at 7 minutes, I repeat, folks, 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Whoa, that's that's
And
that's not a good look.
and we'll finish the Raptors segment with this because I have two questions about the Raptors. One, what purpose is there for me to watch this team right now? And two, and I hate to say this because it's November 21st as we record this, and we're 14 games into the season. The Raptors are 6-8. Have they packed it in already?
Hmm.
Honestly, G, you and I have watched all 14 of these Raptor games. And I'm pointing the question to you on November 21st, which I shouldn't have to do. This should be a conversation for February. But on November 21st, I'm going to ask you, have the Raptors packed it in already? Because they look like a team that is just disinterested in playing basketball.
Man, I think you answered your own question there. Like it really is a team that does not look like they want to play basketball. Look at Precious, his body language. He just couldn't care less whether he was on or not. Look at all of them, like from front to back. OG tonight, man, he replaced his hands with stone bricks and was just out there just fumbling balls and not caring. Like he just, yeah, yeah. So
I
their
saw
body
one play they were
language.
I saw one play they were battling for the ball and it went out of bounds and the ref just went magic ball and the Raptors just went no contest, no argument, no it might have went off, whatever. Can you at least
Yeah,
feign being interested?
that's the thing. Can you have a chip on your shoulder? Like at least the Lakers play with a chip on their shoulder. They might play like trash sometimes and they might have a trash roster, but they play with this chip on their shoulder most of the time that at least shows some life. Uh,
It's because I think when you wear, and this is self-admitted Laker super fan here
mhm.
talking, but when you put on that Laker uniform, you play with that chip because you don't want to be the guy that embarrasses the franchise.
Be nice to have one or two of those on
No, no,
on the
no.
team
Like
this year, right?
for
Yeah.
for as bad as Rua Hachimura and for as bad as these bench guys like Valentine can be,
Yeah.
or Gabe Vincent for that matter, at
Hmm.
least they're trying. At least when I look at the floor, regardless of what the score is, there's effort being put there. It has to do with the legacy of the franchise, and the Raptors don't have enough of a legacy for them to care about. That's just my opinion.
And they're not doing anything to create one, right? They're just repeating similar patterns and sticking with something that's so broken.
Here's the thing that gets me. I think the Raptors are starting to coast on their reputation of being Canada's team.
Yeah. Yeah, they're coasting on something, and organizationally, I bet you it has something to do with that. It's no matter how bad they do, what are they going to do? Take away Canada's only team? So it's maybe they've negotiated themselves into a passive organization. It's a weird thing, man. It really sucks to be a Raptors fan these days. And
Y- You know what? I said that was going to be the last Raptor thing, but I got one more.
mhm,
Look at the change between Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster. Masai was in your face. He was us against the world. He was, we're going to show the world that we can do this.
mhm.
When Bobby took over, you notice you never hear anything from the front office anymore.
Maybe that's it. There's no accountability. And who else had that problem was the New York Knicks. James Dolan, who just resigned today, everybody. James Dolan resigns from his position on the NBA board. So, not the Knicks, but the NBA board. He had this position and he was essentially asked to resign. But again, Bobby Masai, no accountability that way. And the Knicks guy was infamous for not doing any sort of press, not doing any sort of interaction that way because he didn't want that accountability. He didn't want that smoke.
This is gonna be about as hot a take as you're gonna get from me on the At the Buzzer podcast because I try not to say things that are too controversial. I generally like to keep it in the realm of what's on the floor.
Mm,
But I'm gonna say this: James Dolan could be the worst owner in professional sports.
mm,
Period. Point blank. End of story.
yeah.
The way James Dolan runs the Knicks, he should be ashamed of himself. You have one of the best fans in the world in Spike Lee,
Mm.
who blindly supports your franchise, by the way, who blindly supports your franchise.
We need to take notes from that guy because that's the only way we're going to get through the Raptor season is to be more like Spike Lee. So let's just put that out there too. So anyways, go on.
Yeah. Secondly, anybody that ever had any fame to do with the New York Knicks, including Spike, has been ejected from the building, which you don't eject Spike Lee from the building or Charles Oakley.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
You just don't do it. Those are nickel. Those are legends.
Mm-hmm. That'd be like throwing out Jack Nicholson. It's
Could you imagine
or
Genie?
Kareem. Imagine throwing out Kareem. It's man.
Like you don't do that. No,
Mm-mm.
James, and he runs the Rangers a lot like he does the Knicks.
Mm.
It's bottom line business. It's there's no heart to those New York franchises anymore. I remember a time growing up when I was a kid for both the Rangers and the Knicks, and I'm only including the Rangers because James Dolan owns them too. There was a pride in being a Broadway blue shirt and a New
Mm.
York Knickerbocker. There was a pride that came with that when it was Allen Houston, Charles Oakley, Patrick Ewing, and I could name countless Knicks that were proud to wear that jersey. And then Dolan just kind of said, "Yeah, it's a toy." That's why the Knicks have been bad for so long because it's a toy to him, and he
Yeah.
could possibly be the worst owner in all of sports.
And folks, this is a league that has a owner known as Steve Ballmer. That's saying something.
Steve Ballmer. By the way, if you haven't checked out that quick hit on the Los Angeles Clippers, sincerely recommend that you do. We
Yeah,
go
that
over
was
a
our
lot
best.
of things.
Yeah, I like that idea too of doing like nice little 10-minute segment on something on one topic. It really digs into that one thing. So we have some time to throw around that thing like we did with the Raptors there. And nice transition to the Knicks too. And I got one last thing I want to drop on the Raptors is it's just something to watch for the whole NBA season and fans out there. Scotty Barnes, man, which way is he going to go? Is he just going to take a sort of back seat to becoming top dog? Or is he going to finally take those reins and say, listen, man, I'm the future here. I'll play with you, Pascal, but I'm not going to play behind you because our team is lost without a chain of command. We need an alpha dog, and it's Scotty, or he's passive and it's like misusing Russ Westbrook. He becomes useless. If we're going to not use Scotty, might as well trade him and get something. All right. Yeah, that's what I got to say on
That was
Scotty.
gonna lead me to that was gonna lead me to my next question, which was, does Scotty even want to be here?
I can see in his eyes this get me the out of here. I want to play on a team that has competence.
See, here, and I don't mean to make this a Raptor centric podcast, but we're gonna do it anyway.
They're an issue. They're a
Um,
problem.
my, you've been higher on the Raptors at points this year than I have. I'm more of a let show me rather than me falsely believe in you. Would that be
Mhm.
fair to say?
Absolutely. I've taken the Spike Lee approach. You've taken the Stephen A. Smith approach.
And here's the reason for me tying this all back together. Is at what point does Spike Lee, even you playing the part of Spike Lee here, at
Mm.
what point do you go, okay, that's enough? At some point, did, what I'm asking, G, is do you have a breaking point with this Raptor team and how close are you to it?
Who I'd be curious to ask that question is the Raptors super fan, the guy that's been there forever in the front. I can't remember his name, but follows them around everywhere.
If we could get an interview with that guy, that would be the biggest joy for the podcast ever. And
That's
I'm
actually
sorry, I don't know his name either. But if we could get an interview for at the buzzer with that guy, that
that's
would be
actually
the most amazing thing.
That's a really good idea because I'd be so curious about that guy's take on what the energy is like right now because I'm an energy person. Like you can read the room, you know which way the air is going to go, which way this franchise is going to go this year, depending on the energy in that stadium on night to night. And he would be the best one to ask. I'd be so fascinated. And does he have a breaking point, or is he a true Spike Lee that there's no such thing as a breaking point because he only bleeds purple?
That could be interesting. We'll have to see how many 126 to 107s he's got to put up with this season.
Oh
At
man,
the
yeah.
I'm gonna call it the ACC because that's what it was called when it first was brought into existence. And I have
Yeah.
this thing that with arena name changes, I have a very difficult. So if you hear me say the ACC, just know I'm talking about Toronto.
And Toronto, man, they had Drake even come out for the big game, and Boston, and we had them, and you couldn't even do it for Drake. Shame.
No, is he still the global ambassador, by the way?
I don't know. I think he just came on because he was releasing a new album. To be honest,
See, yeah,
uh,
that's the
mhm,
thing. Like, I get tired of celebrities chasing, or not celebrities chasing clout because they already have it. Sports chasing clout because of celebrities.
yeah,
If you're gonna If you're gonna buy a franchise, buy it because you want what's best for the franchise.
mm,
Don't buy a franchise because it puts you front and center with People Magazine because you bought the Ottawa Senators
yeah. Oh,
or the New York Rangers or the New York Knicks. Buy it because it's the best thing for the franchise. Don't buy it as a dog and pony show, please. Because honestly, it offends us fans. It really does.
man, yeah, yeah. Is there a specific team that comes to mind when you think of others that have done that? Of having an owner come in buying it just because they want it to be a toy?
You already know how I feel about James Dolan.
Hmm.
I think Steve Ballmer bought the Clippers for the same reason.
Man,
Uh,
yeah.
you can't you can't really convince me otherwise.
After our big Clippers segment last week, I watched them this last week here. They had that big shot with Harden getting an and one to win the game. And since then, things have shifted. Russ has decided he's going to come off the bench. Terrence Mann has moved into his natural role, and things are actually starting to click. I took a gander at their first four off the bench. Just in terms of name recognition, it's a bit disturbing. Westbrook, Powell, uh, PJ Tucker,
Hmm.
and Plumley or Tice,
Oh, that's my buddy G. He does the podcast with me.
first mate.
Huh? Oh, my mom was just wondering who the other voice was on the podcast.
Oh yeah, it's just your first mate here.
You betcha. But that's the thing. All the Clippers are is name recognition.
Yeah, those are all names that I respect, though. Not so much the Clippers, but I respect all those names. Like Powell, man, he's just
No,
great.
no. But it goes back to my original point. The Clippers so desperately want to be the Lakers.
Man,
And
if the Lakers had that roster, oh,
I'm
the
not
oh,
absolving the Lakers either cuz I'm not I want to make this clear. I'm
mm,
not absolving the Lakers either cuz the Lakers don't get it right all the time either. But
see,
the Lakers are better at being the Lakers than the
mm,
Clippers are at trying to be the Lakers.
that's until LeBron got in there and tried to. He did have his way, I think, with the Lakers, and now the Lakers don't look like the Lakers
No,
could
no,
or should have been.
but but this is what LeBron does. Call LeBron out on this. He
Hmm.
comes in, he takes all the resources to try to get himself a winner, which he knows he's okay doing because he's got a scapegoat with him all the time anyway.
Mm.
But he comes in, he uses up resources, and then he leaves. That's what LeBron does. And you can say you think LeBron is the greatest if you're Gen Z or if you're whatever. You are entitled to your opinion of what you think the career of LeBron James is. But he is a franchise wrecker. He is all about LeBron James, and nothing else matters to him. It's the LeBron show all the time. And if he's on your franchise, you just got to put up with it.
He's a marketing genius, and that's not a compliment. Like, he spends more time thinking about his handshakes than he does the ball game because he knows he's already bought and paid for so much of it that he spends more time on his little let's check the temperature, let's check the
Well,
icy veins, and it's cute, but there's a lot of focus there, a lot of focus goes.
by the way, I guess I should tell people to subscribe at least once half an hour. So be sure to
Especially
like and subscribe this video.
after we call LeBron James wasting his time.
Well, the thing is, with LeBron, I'm going to call him out because there's no two ways around it. Look, and I've said this before, I've put it on Facebook, and I will say it on the podcast here. LeBron James is the best player of his generation, easily, but he's not the greatest.
That's an
And
interesting difference, yeah.
and part of the reason for that is the franchise destroying mechanism that he becomes when he gets to a destination.
Man, absolutely. I'm team Dylan the villain, by the way, all the way.
Good Canadian kid, Dylan Brooks.
Yo, he really brought it. Oh my goodness. I just saw a dunk by Obi Toppin in that replay there that everybody should keep an eye out for. That guy's scary.
Yeah, we record this podcast whether there's games on or not. We just love basketball.
And it is in season tournament night.
Jesus.
I don't know if you caught any of the other games, but Tyrese Halliburton put in 26 points in a quarter.
Are we just gonna give him your dude of the week again?
No, because he's already cemented that. Now it's just okay. Now everybody's on
Now
notice,
we expect it.
and he had
Well, I'll give
37
you
and 16 assists and a win, 157,
I'm gonna
152.
throw up my Western Conference dude of the week already. And you're not gonna be surprised by this, and this will be the first time you'll have the option of calling me a homer for this. But my Western
Oh,
Conference dude of the week, Austin Reeves.
okay, okay. Talk about it. What's Austin up to?
His numbers have been consistent. He's been about that 16, 6, and 6 for the last week. He hit the Hail Mary 3 that bailed out the Lakers. I just think he had a really good week. And my way, like it, I know it sounds like a homer call, but if you go back and look at the numbers, he's had a really good week. And I
He's,
think he's
yeah.
deserving of that dude of the week moniker.
I like it going to him over LeBron, that's for sure, because I think it takes guys
But
like Reeves to actually push that bus over the top of the mountain.
see, here's my explanation as to what I think a dude of the week is. If we really broke it down, okay, let's really break this down.
Yeah.
Steph and LeBron and KD and Giannis, those guys, if we wanted to, we could plaster them as dude of the week every week and make it really
Every night.
boring.
Yeah.
And every week we could have Giannis Antetokounmpo as your Eastern Conference dude.
He's done it
I try to
again.
pick
Yeah.
I try to pick dudes of the week that don't necessarily get the spotlight but are
Mhm.
deserving of some shine. That's what to me a dude of the week is a guy who had a
Mhm.
really exceptional week, and I try to look for diamonds in the rough as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, yeah, that's what makes it interesting, right? Is to bring attention to some of these guys that are doing unexpected things. So you got your
Well, like
Western
Sagan last
Conference.
week. Remember, I called him out in Houston last week, and he didn't let me
Oh,
down.
man. He is so good. He's 21 years old. He's so good. He was taking it to LeBron, no problem. That was impressive, dude.
I told you he was my dude of the week last week, but this week's
Yeah.
Western Conference dude of the week is Austin Reeves.
Okay, shout out to the Reeves. What's his name? The AK. I don't know.
AK 47 or AK 15 or
Something.
whatever his number is.
It's not. We'll get you a better one. AR-15 maybe.
AR
Anyways,
15, I think, is what it is.
no, that.
Anyways, and to be honest, that's my first homer call of the podcast. Even if you want to call it a homer call, even though there's numbers to back it up.
And
So,
the Lakers have been winning, which I think is significant too. Is it's not somebody that's putting up numbers for the sake of numbers. Jason
oh,
Tatum.
it's not like I'm calling Kyle Kuzma the Eastern Conference dude of the week because he got 25 points in 3 games this week.
Yo, man, did you watch any of that Lamelo Ball versus Celtics?
No, what happened was I was you and I talk about hitting the wall all the time.
Hmm.
And I kept myself so busy that last night I didn't even make it to the end of nothing. I was in bed at 8 o'clock last night and I didn't see nothing. And you didn't even hear from me until 4 o'clock this afternoon because I was in the hospital. I told
Hmm.
you all about that earlier. I've
And
had a
things are
heck of a
looking up.
day. Things are looking up. Don't worry, it's
Mm.
nothing major. Just got to do a little cleanup there
Mm.
and I'll be good. Like I
Cool.
told you before, Tuesdays and Sundays are quickly becoming my favorite YouTube days because I get to do the At the Buzzer podcast. And on Sundays, I get to do Seahawk Sunday where the boys show up. And speaking of boys showing up, my brother brought me popcorn. It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, see, things are looking up indeed.
You bet.
Man,
But I just love talking ball and I love being the sports guy. That's what it is for me.
man, and people are I know love showing up for it, including myself. It's a nice place to be. It really is. Uh, when we're not
So
watching Raptors.
can we talk a little bit about Draymond now? Can we destroy this elephant in the room here?
Yeah,
Because
unless
they're
you want to get your Eastern Conference due to the week out of the way, or do you want to save that for later?
my Eastern Conference due to the week, and I know we give him a lot of shine already, and it's a cop out,
Mm,
but it's got to be Tyrese Maxey.
mm.
The
He's a
energy that
yeah,
dude brings on a nightly basis, if for nothing else, he would be the dude of the week. But he puts up numbers as well, and
yeah.
he's just so impressive. And I don't like Philly. I don't like Philly. When a dude can play like that, and he's the sidekick. That's the scary part.
That is scary. But they didn't have enough to win it tonight. Cleveland beat them in overtime at home. That's crazy. I
Yeah, I
didn't.
don't expect Philly to win anything.
Really? Okay. Is it any particular reason why?
The the 76ers are the Eastern Conference version of the Clippers. They always
That's a
get in their own way.
that's a great comparison. Actually, I can completely see that.
They always get in their own way.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and people will be like, "But Mo, in the 70s, or the 80s, the Sixers won two titles. That was 40 years ago."
That's
Okay?
such a long
Knicks
time.
have,
This, yeah.
the Knicks won in 73 too. You don't see me talking about Willis Reed still.
No, but they're clinging to it.
They're clinging to it. That's true. We might be clinging to Kawhi for the next 50 years the way the Raptors are going right now. So I got nothing but empathy for those franchises.
Yeah, I've changed course on the statue building. I think we should put one up of him. That's all we got. That's all we're gonna get. That is just kidding on that front because I don't think he should have a statue for playing one season. Heck of a season, but not
And it was
statue
like half
worthy.
a season, wasn't it? We picked them up in January or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It was special, but it wasn't that special. I got a couple good picks before I forget them here. I want to get my East and West out of the way if that's cool. Um,
Absolutely.
on the Eastern Conference, this hurts because they just beat us, but Jalen Suggs, man, I've seen him now a few times this season, and I hope I didn't already have him as a dude of the week, but if
Well,
so, then this is just
I'm sure we'll multiply them anyway, so it doesn't matter.
and yeah, if it's already speaking to that, then it's just how much I respect seeing that energy so visibly on the floor, giving himself to the game in a way that's just like a primal competitive.
And you notice we're both drawn to lunch bucket guys. We
Yeah,
don't tend to
yeah.
go for the flashy, like in your face dudes. We're always like, oh, that guy's got energy and we can go with that.
Mhm, and just that just maybe one hair of a screw loose, they're just so competitive in a way that's emotional, but not in a way that's
It's
expecting
not at a
anything,
it's not at a Draymond level yet.
and it's not at a Luka or an Embiid thing or a Towns thing where their emotions, I think, can be almost childlike in a way that's works against them. I see in Suggs this like energy of just a man that's trying so hard. Like he's just working so hard and he thrives on that energy.
So
And man, it was impressive.
so I bring you back to draft night now. And after having a couple of years or a year and a half to think about this, is it Suggs or is it Scotty?
Here's what my take was. If I could go back to two drafts and Knowing what I know now, this is what I'd do. Instead of Malachi Flynn, we're going Desmond Bain. Instead of Scotty Barnes, we're going Jalen Suggs. We keep Freddie, and everything is different.
Oh, that speaks to organizational mistakes, man.
Those are some big ones, dude. I don't know. They brought in Scotty, who's nothing can be in stone about him yet. Like, this is more about the Raptors and the fit, I think. And drafting a guy like that when you have a franchise that's trying to still win now, and then expecting him to just play, it's the weirdest ask of a young player to be the alpha dog, but also wait your time. At least in Orlando,
Yeah,
it's like Bankera,
you
go.
can't do that. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
just can't do that. That would be like me saying, "Okay, G, we're gonna diversify, right?"
Mm.
And what that means is you're gonna get your own show on the Mo Money Sports Network. I'll give you all the permissions and everything. And then, but then that's me also saying, but you can't have better numbers than me. Why would I give you your own spot then?
And all sorts of other little restrictions that around it that you can just see him like night in and night out. You get a Jekyll and Hyde of Scotty, and it's almost like the same thing with the Raptors. So if I could go back and say do things do differently, they need that backup point guard position filled, and Jalen Suggs is pure dog, and they need a dog. So it's like you would have filled two things with that, and
That's
yeah,
what I mean though. Do you realize the idiocy of me saying something like, "Yeah, I'm gonna give you your own segment on the network, but there's all these restrictions that come with it." Does that make any sense to you? No, it doesn't.
yeah, it would be it said. I guess the idea is mixed messages, right? So not only mixed messages, but like mixed abilities. So you don't have even the ability to do what you're being asked to do. So us win, but only in the ways that are within what are always shifting box maybe. And you can just see the other
And
players taking a back seat to this. Like, all right.
and just because YouTube likes to start drama, these are all hypothetical scenarios I'm coming up with. Because me and G talk about everything as far as this podcast is concerned. So there's no hidden agenda to the question. I'm just saying that's what it was like for Scotty Barnes. They're like, take control of this team, but it's not yours yet.
And man, they could have done something when he won the rookie of the year, and it was like his stock was so high. People would have traded all-star players for him, and we're like, no, he's our guy, but we're not going to let him be our guy. It's
Your
sort of like
Western Conference due to the week.
Western Conference dude of the week is Mr. Chet Holmgren of the Oklahoma City
Oh,
Thunder,
interesting.
who hit a game winning three on one of my other fave teams, or used to be one of my fave teams to watch, of the Golden State Warriors. Chet, oh, he put a three in Wiggins' face that was so smooth and so deadly. But beyond that, he is similar to Suggs in that he's so competitive for how young he is. Like, he plays like his life depends on it every single night, and it's contained. Like, it's
He
not
has to play that way
reckless.
though. He's not, this
And
is
but he
no
does, right? Like, he does play like that. He shows up every night the same way of being like animal.
this is no disrespect to Chet Holmgren,
Hmm.
but he's not talented enough to be coasting in this league. I know he thinks he is. I know he thinks he is. He's not.
We'll see. We got a lot of
But
soft centers. So you look at Pirtle. You got
I think he just has the name Jakob Pertl to see my face go red.
yeah, Pirtle the turtle.
I hope people are starting to understand when I talk about Jakob Pertl what I'm seeing now.
It's similar to a Nurkic.
Yes, but Nurkic is protected with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. There's no protection for Jakob Pertl. When Jakob Pertl has a bad night, he gets thrown under the bus
Mm,
because
yeah.
there's no protection for Jakob Pertl. That's the difference.
And there's no guy on our team that you can look to when times are tough. Pascal's sometimes there, sometimes not. Anyways, let's get off the Raptors. My dude of the week was Chet, and not so much for any points or any sort of spectacular moves other than that three pointer, but he just showing up every game I've seen him with a very focused, present,
No,
like doing well for what he's able to do right now in his role. Like I want to see
nope.
guys thrive in their role where they're at, and he's thriving in his role where he's at, I think.
And don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Chet. What I'm saying is, for the level of expectations people put on him, he's not ready for that, but he's going to round himself into a decent ball player. I'm not saying that he's not capable. What I am saying is give the kid some time. And like
And
you
that
said, he's thriving in his role.
Yeah, and I think that's the surprising part, honestly, is a lot of people figured it would take some serious time to see some franchise altering talent in him. But a lot of the people on the Thunder and in the West that are watching him night to night are like, he's surpassing all expectations like quite rapidly. Whether that means there's lots of room to grow still or not, then maybe that's an issue. But right now he's surpassing their expectations, which is interesting to hear. That could be the number two to Shea, and they might not need another guy. OKC coming up big.
And I'm happy for OKC because their fans are loyal. Their fans show up every night at Chesapeake Arena, or at least it used to be Chesapeake Arena. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is now, but that fan base deserves something.
And they're the second youngest team in the league still, and they're third or fourth right now in the West. So they've got such a scary potential. And Chet's very symbolic of, hey, they're already here and they haven't even really got going yet. So just look out
I
for them.
I worry about Chet not having enough body mass to survive in the league, though.
That's fair. That's totally fair because, man, guys will bang you up. These guys aren't here to just be your friend. They're going to hurt you when they can. Just as Dylan
Here's
the
another
villain.
question. Here's another question. We're about 15 games into the season, give or take, right? For a couple teams here and there. What are your takeaways from this first, I don't know, 30% of this 20% of the season or whatever it is?
Boy, the game has gotten faster and the offense has gotten better. So that part is
Has
somehow
the
like
offense gotten better or has the defense gotten worse?
that's actually a really good question. You know what? I don't know. That's something that I'll probably have to continue observing. Right now, it feels like the offense has gotten better on certain teams to the point where they've sacrificed talent on defense, but they can still put in 152 on a good defensive team, if you know what I'm
The
saying.
reason I say that is because I saw a couple of plays tonight, and this could just be a Raptor thing, where the Magic were just dicing them up all night long. And that's why I say, has the defense gotten worse?
In some
I don't
places it
know. That
has, but overall the points keep going up in terms of the NBA per night totals. So even if a team, let's say, played against one of the top defensive teams in like Minnesota, if a team scored 130 or 140 on Minnesota, that's speaking to me that yeah, there's some sort of offensive rise because they're playing against the best defense and still getting that many points. I think a lot of teams have sacrificed defensive players to be able to have enough offensive guys that can do that, aka Atlanta. They just so much Indiana, it was like a marathon, right? 152 to 157. We've never seen scores like that in the NBA. It's just offense versus offense and who can go more. But when they
it's
play a
like
team like
video game rules.
Minnesota, it's not going to be pretty.
It's like video game rules.
Almost when you see some of those teams, they take the D'Antoni approach of the best defense is more offense. I don't buy it personally, but I see the NBA has really bought into that on a large
Here's
level,
the
and it
thing, though.
is
D'Antoni
like,
doesn't
wow.
have any rings.
And that's my point too, man. Like Budenholzer has a ring for a reason. He was a defensive-minded coach. Say what you want, Nick Nurse, this and that. He threw some defensive schemes together that had enough respect that like people still consider that part of his coaching his strength. So defense does win championships, but other teams are doubling down on this points thing of offense, and that's something I've just noticed. That's a huge difference.
What that costs you though is when the Houston Rockets go 0 for 27 from 3 point line, and you get blown out by 40 points, and then your offense doesn't mean a dang thing.
And I wouldn't consider Houston one of those teams that's overloaded on offense.
No,
In
I'm
Indiana,
just pointing that out
Sacramento. Oh, it's an example.
as a quick example of something that could backfire on people.
Yeah. Like Indiana and Atlanta tonight were a perfect example of that game could have been like 98-90 if they were both doing horrible shooting, but it ended up being double that. Like they had 86 at the half. No defense is being played there. And that's just very different than any other year. Nobody's ever put in
No,
that.
and that was my point. When I see a score like 157
Mhm.
to 152, I'm like, that's great. It's fun for us, but where's the defense?
Yeah, that's where I think the Raptors haven't picked a lane. They've not gone with a defensive minded team. They've not gone with an offensive minded team. They just have a bunch of guys that are athletes together. Eh, I got to get
The
off the
Lakers?
Raptors. The Lakers, no, the Lakers. I don't even know what to say about the Lakers other than the Lakers.
See, there's AR-15 driving to the hole as we speak,
Yeah, they're
dishing
just
up.
thrashing. Uh,
The Jazz aren't any good though. It's hard to justify like when okay, and I know we keep trying to get off the Raptors, but I got to talk about this Pistons game real quick. Record-setting assist, don't care. Most points, don't care. It doesn't matter.
against the worst
Matters.
team 6 years running. It's like you beat a G League team. Great.
And you saw what happened when they got up against Orlando. And Orlando's not even great.
No, they're what?
Orlando's
Yeah,
mediocre at best, and they handled us.
they're
See,
about.
the problem is anyway. Let's talk about another team because if I talk about the Raptors, my head's gonna explode.
It is about that time, I think, where it's had explosion time for any Raptors fans out there because it's like Chicago Bulls. Like, not to say we're going to talk about Chicago Bulls, but they remind me of the Raptors so much right now of just like this dying deer on the side of the road that somebody should be helping put out of its misery, but everybody just keeps driving by and the hunter's just standing there looking at it and it's just not a pretty thing, man. What are your big takeaways from the season as things have gone 15 games?
The Raptors and Mavs, who are who they said I've been for the last month and a half. New Orleans can still be interesting, but I don't know if they got the horses to go where they need to go.
Oh
The
man, I
Pacers are
love Ingram.
the Pacers are surprising me. Shout out to you for calling that one at the beginning of the year. You
Yep.
said the Pacers might be good. He keeps
Hmm.
my receipts, but I keep his too, people. And he was on the Pacers earlier than anybody that I can think of.
Let's not forget about the Rockets either.
Yeah, I was with you on the Rockets. Remember, I was the guy that said they could win 50 or 22.
Facts, man. We've been riding the Rockets train. I think we can stay on it.
I think so. And my Rockets, due to the week, they're still making me look good from 2 weeks ago.
Do you feel? Sorry, go ahead.
The Celtics are 11-2. That's not a surprise.
Mm, but it is
Like I
noteworthy.
said, that Drew Holiday trade really put them into form, I think.
What do you think of when they lose to Charlotte Hornets, if that's their name.
It is the Hornets. I'm not worried about it because somebody's got to win at some point. They're all
Yeah,
technically professional teams,
but if you're trying to show dominance, you don't want to lose to a super weak team.
but it everybody slips on a banana peel. It
Well,
is what it.
let's say yes, but also when you're renowned for being guys that slip on banana peels at inopportune times, it's I think it's fair to be critical when you're stepping on banana peels at this early in the stage of the game on things that aren't that slippery. Because when it gets into crunch time and they're known for slipping, it's going to be a whole
Well,
lot more slippery.
that actually brings me to an interesting thing about Golden State is everybody's oh, these guys will get it together, these guys will get it together, these guys will get it together. I'm starting to wonder as we progress in the season if these guys might not get it together.
Not unless they make the change that I think we're going to get into right now, and we're going to play a little GM. We should come up for a name for this segment where we do a spontaneous GM role thing where you have to help them out of
Oh, I
this
don't think
situation.
have we done this have we done this on the pod yet? I know we've done this off air, but
Yeah,
I
I don't
don't
know
know
if
if
we
we've
have
done this
yet.
on the pod.
Man, Mo Money's making moves. We'll come up with some kind of name for it, man. But I think it'd be really interesting if Golden State makes business decisions right now, and that means feelings aside, Clay might have to get moved as a salary incentive for one team and bringing a piece back that can help you win now. And Wiggins as well. Like I'd be looking at dealing. I'd be taking calls for Clay and Wiggins right now. Only guys I'm keeping
Oh,
are Looney and Draymond because those are essentially Steph's bodyguards, and you only need to protect Steph. So it's find two other guys.
I don't know. I think I think Draymond's got to go.
Steph won't
I
play
think he's
without
a,
him.
I think he's the anchor. He's the anchor to the team. He's holding them down. I don't think I don't think
Yeah.
Draymond is even effective defensively as he once was.
It's
I
I
think
think
Gray's lost.
they're weirdly dependent on him, and I don't mean maybe they, but Steph is, and that's not a weakness of Steph. It's just that he's built that as the role that he needs to be most effective, and nobody's been better at that role than Draymond. And now when Draymond's not taking that role of being the playmaker, the
But
defensive
Draymond
stopper,
is no longer capable of the Draymond that you want is no longer there.
and the same with Clay
And that's my point though.
and
Is
Wiggins.
see that's what I mean. Are the Warrior fans delusional in thinking the Warriors can get back to what the Warriors were?
As long
Or are
as you
they
have
holding on
Steph,
to but even Steph isn't what he once was.
true, but he's still better than most people.
Offensively, I'd agree with you.
And he can be a dog too. He's got that Suggs thing in him where it's just
Nah, he hides defensively.
maybe out of strategy, but I've seen him get him into those playoff games, and he's like a rabid little animal, just frothing at the mouth when it's game time.
Can we just get him to
Yeah.
stop doing the shimmy, please? Can
Hey,
we get Steph to stop doing the shimmy?
when everybody stops checking their pulse to make sure they're still living, I'll make a memo to staff.
How much you being the Golden State Warrior fan, so to speak, what is your percent? Let's play because you like to play. What is your percentage of belief with me?
Mm,
So I'm gonna
yeah.
throw it right back at you. Golden State
Mm.
recovers this season. What percentage are you at?
Can I say if they make a move, their odds rise dramatically for me. And it wouldn't even have to be Draymond. It would have to be the scorer. You need another real scorer. And Clay and Wiggins are not scoring. They're dropping 15 tops a night. That's garbage. That's trash. But some team will take them and trade you a freaking all-star for them. I'm thinking about Toronto and see, I'm mixing the games here, but I'm thinking about Toronto sending Pascal or something like that for Wiggins. And maybe Clay's gone to Chicago Bulls for Levine. And then tell me that
For the
Steph, Levine, and Siakam, Draymond, and Looney doesn't give you a bit of a
for
shiver. Ooh.
for those new to the podcast, this is episode 9, and this is probably the ninth week in a row that G has traded Pascal Siakam from the Toronto Raptors, and he's still a Toronto Raptor.
At least I'm trying to do something as a fan here, trying to find some solutions. Mo, there's nobody else on the franchise that seems to be willing to look at themselves in the mirror and say, "Hey, it's not working. I got to make a change." I'm here to do that for them, and so some pieces you can be making moves with. Send Boucher. Golden State Warriors would need a piece like that to help them in the low points, just a little X factor. Um,
So I'm going to ask again, what are the percentages you believe in Golden State turning it around as currently constructed,
oh,
and
as
what
currently
are
constructed, 0.
your percentages if they're able to make a move?
It goes from 0 to 50%. If they make
By the way,
moves, yeah.
I forgot to do the half hour. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because if you listen to us for an hour already, you may as well.
Well, yeah, and we'll try to incentivize you with some sort of real hot
See,
take.
if I wanted to be cheap about it, or if I wanted to do it the cheap way, I'd just do some kind of giveaway, but that's not my style. I'd rather
Yeah.
people be here for the content.
If we find something that's worth giving away, we'll make it happen. Like I found some old hockey cards I found of my collection. There's some classics, man. Players I forgot about. We'll
Oh,
give away some
did you do
hockey
the whole
cards.
set it up against the wall and shoot the hockey cards? And
No, not. I had those McDonald's, Tim Hortons, or something used to do them. Just all sorts
I
of little
have
cards.
binders full of those cards.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Those things brought me back, but there's also some hilarious memories of certain players, and uh, man, yeah, memorabilia is something.
So,
You
who
know,
are your odds-on favorites in the association so far this season?
to take it into a serious direction for a championship, or just to make some noise
Yeah,
and be dangerous to do the championship.
yeah.
Oh, that's an elite group, I think. But I'm shocked that there might be a couple in there that I would never have put in there at the start of the season. So maybe that's an interesting take. I'm going to say in the West, we're looking at Denver, Minnesota. I think if they have a healthy
I
Anthony
really,
Edwards, it would be such an interesting dynamic to see
you
that
see me
guy.
shaking my head because I'm already disagreeing with you.
That's my smallest percent chance. That if I were Vegas for me on that one,
That's
I'd
your dark
say
horse.
that's my dark horse, yeah, because Cat can go for 30 and a half. Gobert can be a 4-time defensive player of the year. Anthony Edwards can be MJ-esque. Like they could be a dark horse, but we'll see. They have,
Yeah, but by that token, LeBron James can be LeBron James. Anthony Davis could be somebody, and Anthony Reeves could turn into Larry Bird. It all could happen.
yeah. Yeah, and those are the percentages. So I like Minnesota's chances better than the Lakers for a couple reasons. The primary being that LeBron's too effing old and he can't sustain this. And once he's not playing, this team is barely a G League team. So I know Minnesota has just better
He
odds
says that
that
as
way.
Austin. He says that as Austin hits a free throw.
Man,
And
if
remember how you're talking
yeah,
about Austin Reeves' numbers? Apparently, when Austin comes off the bench, he's a lot better than when he's a starter.
that's interesting. And I didn't even know who's in their starting lineup. Like they just have so many no name dudes filling the roster.
I
It's
stand by what I said. It's still LeBron and a bunch of dudes.
and as Charles Barkley was saying at the beginning of Inside the NBA, he's like, Father Time is undefeated. It's not even that crazy of a bet. It's like you're betting on the thing that never loses. time. He said he made Kobe a bet in one of his later years. I guarantee you I'll hit this many points or whatever. And he's 25G says you don't. And 25G later for Kobe, he was paying Charles. And I think it's not a nothing point. It's like time will wear on LeBron come game 60, game 70. His team is not going to win games without him, I don't think. But we'll see.
Here, here's my pushback on that, and I'm gonna bring up a non-basketball thing here,
Mm.
but I'm gonna compare it to basketball, and that is Tom effing Brady, because that man every year they said Father Time's gonna get you, Tom. Father Time's gonna get you, Tom, and all
And
that man did was win Super Bowls.
and I would yeah, I was actually making a comparison between him and LeBron on Sunday watching or no Monday last night with Mahomes, watching the protection and the time he had to throw. It was just it was like, oh man, what an offensive line. And then who was it for? There was another game I was watching where the offense, Russell Wilson, right? The Seahawks game. So much time in the pocket. And I was like, man, Brady was a guy that could have 0 seconds in the pocket or tons, and no matter what, make it work. But at a certain point, him and LeBron both crossed a threshold where they got almost such like clout for being like 2 or 3 time champions that nobody's allowed to touch them anymore. And it became like, though these odds aren't that impressive anymore, because sure, they don't get it, like Father Time's not beating them, but that's also because they're not being touched by the NBA protecting them. And that's not even a controversy or conspiracy. That's just people's eyes. Everybody can see that. And it's not to take anything away from them. It's just reality is NBA, NFL want to make money. They'll protect their stars as they're asked to. But it
That's
also
what.
takes away from them.
That's why I do my best to protect you, G, because you're the star of the podcast. So that's how that goes. Got to protect the superstar.
Yeah, and so I'll try to maybe do what I'm asking some of these other guys have, and do something despite the odds. Because when you have the odds working for you, like when you have the refs kind of protecting you, it's less impressive to continue it up. So I don't
Well,
know. I
here's the
yeah.
thing. I get a lot of feedback on this podcast, right?
Oh, okay.
And what I hear a lot is, if it was shorter, we would pay more attention, or we would watch longer. But the truth is, there's so much going on in the NBA that we need that 2 hour window to give you a full picture of what's going on.
And it's almost like we're like a young team that needs some minutes. Like we're a two-way player like Marquise Noel that needs some time in the G League just to grind and put some time in on the floor, getting his minutes. Like we just, I think, yeah, finding our flow, finding our dynamics. But if we were going to package it up and really try to get some consistent listenership and stuff like that, I bet we could shrink it down into nice, tight, bite-sized things and 10-minute things or 20-minute podcasts and all sorts of different versions of that. But yeah, I totally hear you. I totally hear that. That's good feedback because lots of content,
But
lots of things to talk about, but sometimes it is
I
nice
like
for a
the longer.
focused thing.
I got to be honest. I enjoy the longer podcast because there. I would rather go. I would rather take the full 2 hours than be like, oh, we should have talked about this, or we could have talked
And
about that.
yeah, and there's something too about if we had an editor or producer, there'd be somebody that could take the best parts and edit it seamlessly and put together a consistent hour from taking 2 hours down to one almost or whatever. But I think all of that stuff can be to come. My other
Well, at what point, if we're chopping it up, does it not become us?
That's the fine art of the producer, right? Is you don't want it to be
See, like
too
at
much.
least at least with a 2 hour podcast, it's us,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
that's
there's
true.
no
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
and At least you don't have the what if that was taken out of context bit, right?
True. Very true. All right. So I dig that, but we can definitely consider the feedback and see what else we can do in terms of putting out extra things like the 10-minute one. I think we can do even shorter ones too and make it interesting blasts on certain topics and stuff like,
See, but here's
you
the
know.
thing. Here, I'm just being honest with my people that watch this podcast. And if
Mm,
you're still here for an hour and 15 minutes, you're a real one. But
yeah.
the ball content doesn't do very good
Not
on the
yet, baby.
channel.
Not yet.
We're and if you think I'm lying, just check the numbers. I I do an NBA live stream, doesn't do as well. Now, part of that could be it's a Friday night as well.
And more people might know you for football at this point, and who knows?
Could be.
Yeah, things can.
But even like my Last Dance documentaries don't do as well. But that's not why I do it, because I know there's hardcore hoopers that love this thing.
And there's always an audience that just hasn't found it yet, right? It's
That's true.
it's just the way of the world these days. Is it sometimes just takes some time to find the audience of whatever it may be, but when it's found, it's there. It's always there.
What about G's favorite NBA player
All time
currently?
or currently right now?
Currently,
Ooh, yeah, that is ever shifting when it goes between the dude of the week. I really end up having my favorite player almost be like that for the week. But right now, let me think. I'm just loving Shengun.
that's my boy right there.
Seriously, that guy makes he's must watch TV to me. Like it's just feed
See,
the animal. He wants more. Like the refs had to take him out of the game against the Lakers because he was going to single handedly dismantle them. So they gave him 4 in the top of the third, and it was like, all right, that's almost respect.
yeah, and like I said, there's a lot of bad ways to end a ball game, and that was a bad way to end a ball game. Because and I know the Lakers benefited from that, but I will say this: I'm an old school cat. Give me 5 minutes. Let's see who the better team was on that night. Let's not have it be decided by a whistle and free throws.
Yeah. Yeah, it was too good of a game. That was a really competitive, fun game to watch. And Dylan Brooks is a one of my favorites now, I think, too, because he's embraced this role so much and backing it up with an improved sense of play. Like his 3-pointer percentage is drastically improved. His defense is always taking the best player. He's
Can we just have
hitting,
a conversation about Dylan Brooks? Like, never mind the Houston Rockets. Can we just talk about Dylan Brooks for a second?
yeah, and we haven't talked about Draymond too, other than just a quick Golden State thing. But yeah, let's talk
No, we
about
gotta.
Dylan Brooks.
We'll get
Yeah.
to that. We'll get to that in just a second. But I'm
Hmm.
curious about your take on Dylan Brooks on
Hmm.
several things. One, him being a part of Team Canada.
Hmm.
This is the part where I'm going to let you be biased because we both love Team Canada and we want to see them do well.
Hmm.
But what are your thoughts on Dylan Brooks as far as Team Canada goes?
Essential. Got to have a dog. It's it's what the Raptors are missing right now. It's like you have no pulse until you have a guy that's willing to fight to the death for your team, and we don't
And
have.
my other question, as far as Dylan goes, and I'm curious for your take on this one, especially, is what do you think Memphis telling him we don't want you did to a psyche of a man like that?
I think it actually speaks to the character that I'm looking at when I see the beyond the outer layer, is that he responded to that by getting better. So that like what it did to the psyche of men like that was say, "Oh, you don't think I can be better? You don't think I'm worth it? I'ma show you." And that's the best response, isn't it? Like from a competitor standpoint and from a just a player standpoint, you want to be using that as.
And I will admit, I've been the harder of the two of us on Dylan Brooks because I'm
Mm,
more of a basketball guy. I wish you'd leave your drama off the floor.
I don't
But
condone the hitting in the nuts.
that that being said, I as well as anybody else because you talk to me every day about basketball.
Mhm.
I root for Dylan. I really, honestly, truthfully do. And when he does well, I feel good. But I just want to know, does his role have to evolve or change in the NBA as it's currently constituted?
And I think, yeah, a little bit, just so he doesn't end up going the Draymond way. Like, you don't want this to become your only identity. Like, you want to actually be a well-rounded basketball player that can be in the game without being ejected. You don't want it to be a reputation thing that just continues to work against you. I think he's got to be surrounded by good mentors like Fred Van Vliet, Jeff Green, and Ime Udoka to be like, we can use this fire, but we don't want it to burn us. And you need guys like that can show them the way. Yeah.
I love when you lead yourself right into my next question.
Okay.
Because here it is. You led yourself right into this one. I had this planned, but you led yourself in perfectly.
That's what I
One
do.
piece of advice from G to Dylan Brooks, because Dylan Brooks is we know watches this podcast. Ha, we're
Man,
joking. We know he doesn't.
respond to my emails, motherfucker. No. But trying one piece of advice for him, yeah, it's echoing a little bit of that is you can keep the tough enforcer role and reputation as part of your bag, but it's just one part of the bag, right? You want to be able to dip into that bag or put that down when you need to. When the game's calling for different things, the ability to put that roll down and pick up another one would be the most effective thing he could do or learn how to do. And I think he's probably going to learn it because he's so open to getting better. And maybe that's the best thing is keep that attitude of the chip on the shoulder and don't lose that.
I just wanted to get in on the Dylan Brooks conversation because it's been something that's been on my mind for a while. Because
Mm,
I think the way I speak about Dylan on this podcast, people think I don't like him.
mm.
It's just
It's
I can see where he's going, and I don't want him to head that way.
yeah, it's a fine line, right? It's a tightrope walk of being the tough guy and effective at that, and then slipping on the other side of that knife and becoming a guy that's a liability. And Draymond turned into a liability because he's not adapting to the changing situations. Okay, this did not call for that, right? And SNL, I don't know if you saw any clips posted or anything like that on Saturday Night Live, did a little sketch of Draymond Green. They hit it on the head so hard of what I think he actually believes. It's pretty much like he wants to play dark skin basketball. He doesn't want none of this. Like he wants to play old school playground stuff. And there's so a place and time for that, but there's this clash of worlds going on, and he is having none of it. And he's not going to change. I don't change. The world changes. And I think he's hitting the wall, right? He
but
has
the
hit the
fact
wall.
that but the fact that you're unwilling to change will make you change.
For a guy like Brooks,
If
I think it will. And for a guy like Draymond,
if,
I think it might mean he retires.
if there's one thing I've learned about this big blue circular planet of ours,
Mm.
it's that you encounter change the more you try to avoid it.
Yeah. And he
And
might
for
change right into retirement. I honestly believe if he doesn't figure out whatever this is, might as well just retire because I don't think he'd be a
like
positive force in the league for anybody.
and I give that advice to anybody. Like honestly, because the way we do this podcast is we both enjoy it, and until that day comes where we don't get the motivation to do this anymore, that will be the end of the podcast. It's not going to be anything else. It's going to be we just can't find the motivation to do it. And there's a difference because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people walk away for a lot of different reasons. And I think one of the reasons that Draymond is sticking around is because of that $102 million contract that he signed. And don't get me wrong, G, 102 bills in the bank. It's nothing to sneeze at, but it's the wrong reason to stay in the game.
Especially when you're this much of a liability over asset, right? It's like your assets have to outweigh your liabilities on a business level like that when you're $100 million. Like you need to have one thing outweighing the other, and his is flipping rapidly and just no interest in changing. Oh god, that SNL thing was so funny. It was just like, do you feel bad for what you've done? Yeah, no. Like, I would do
And
it again. It's like, yeah, he would.
that's why I keep going back to the Pat McAfee thing.
Mm,
I think Pat McAfee, I won't say destroyed because he got his money, but the essence of what the Pat McAfee show was before it hit ESPN is
mm,
gone. And I don't know if he can get that back in a corporate environment like Disney.
exactly. Some guys can, like Brian Windhorst has found a way to slog enough time that he finally found a way to be the best a version of himself within that corporate structure thing. But that's one in a billion, man. And he had to grow with ESPN rather than coming from outside in. But there's not a whole lot of examples of people coming into the corporate thing and maintaining their
No,
specialness.
like the one thing that makes the at the buzzer thing special is we're a couple of clowns just talking hoops because we love to talk hoops. And you can
Mhm.
be in your basement, and I can have a fake fireplace with fake couches and a fake piano. For now, as
Yeah,
G
fake
likes to
until
say,
somebody opens that door and would, oh shit. Yeah.
somebody opens that door, I'm ending this podcast. That's what I'm telling you right now. If somebody opens that door, I'm ending this podcast. But
Yeah.
my point is this: if we can't be at the buzzer somewhere else, then it's gonna stay here at home.
Mm.
As soon as we lose the feel of what the At the Buzzer podcast is meant to be, it's done.
So
And
you
the reason I relay that to Pat McAfee is just because he's monster successful, but at what cost?
Yeah. Yeah. That is the ancient question I think everybody should ask themselves, no matter what you're doing, because everything has a cost. Everything. And yeah, and being aware of those decisions is also everything. It doesn't mean to put like pressure on you, but it's nice to be aware of what you're sacrificing or not sacrificing when you're saying yes to something or no to something.
I think that's key though. And by the
Yeah.
way, we're at the hour and a half mark, so subscribe and all that other good jazz. But my point remains, we get to do this right now on our schedule, which is usually Tuesday nights at about 7:30. Would you say that's about right? Give
I
or
think
take
that
10, 15 minutes.
I think that's pretty much bang on.
So given those parameters, because we posted at 8 a.m. Wednesday morning, if ESPN all of a sudden said you have to do the At the Buzzer podcast, but it's got to be at 3 in the afternoon, and you can only talk about these four things, and you got to still be talking for 2 hours, it wouldn't be the same as what we do now.
No, yeah, it's true. And yeah, watching the Raptors tonight breakdowns and stuff with yeah, four guys commentating and eating appetizers after. I'm like, that's it. They're just doing their thing, and it's not really any different than ours. It's just they have a fancier camera and different and snacks and that, but they're pretty much just doing the same thing with just different backgrounds, different approaches to the game, different expertise, and all of that. But it's just people hanging out, talking ball. Going back to the Draymond thing too, is I don't think he can do that. I don't think he can maintain, let's say he's at the buzzer and ESPN is Golden State Warriors. It's if we were this rockin' thing, but it had all these edges, and ESPN's like, man, you know what? It's worked up till now, but it's 2023, and people don't actually want to see people getting curb stomped or choked out on an NBA floor. So we got to ask you to dial it back. And
And
in a,
Drake can't do it.
yeah, because you're asking him to sacrifice something that actually is part of who he is. And he's that's an emotional thing because it's a bit funny. That's a part of who he is, but it's also real. Like the dude is a physical enforcer that comes from neighborhoods and places that I'm sure have had a reputation for such things, but he's embraced it as a teammate. And it just doesn't work in the modern world. And I don't know if we should ask him to change. He just might have to, I don't know. I don't know where it will go, but
But
it's going to be tough.
the thing is, and I love you, Dre. I think you're great. But at this point, I think you care about your podcast more than you do basketball.
Mm.
You know how many YouTube shorts I've seen of Draymond hosting his podcast? Too many.
Mm. And there's a
You'd
lot of
think this
players,
guy was
yeah.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah. And there's
But
so much
he's
of that,
he's
yeah.
but he's the one that stands out because he makes a big deal about it.
And not everybody gets to play with Steph Curry, the greatest shooter of all time.
Yes.
There's a reason that people are so shocked at him at sometimes because it's like, why would you destroy this opportunity playing with the greatest shooter of all time? Like, why are you wasting any energy on not just being the best team with the best shooter of all time? Like, a lot of energy going other places when, yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's like when you have the thing that you could only dream of. It's like having Jokic on your team or something. It's man,
Or
why would you spend your time
or
doing anything else if you had that in your back? It doesn't make
it,
much
it
sense.
it would be like, how would I put this? I'll put this in broadcasting terms because I have broadcasting background, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it would be like MSG network or something going and saying, "Hey Mo, we have this great idea. We're gonna bring it to the Mo Money Sports Network. It's gonna be on your YouTube channel, and we're giving you Marv Albert once a week on Thursdays because that's when he can fit it in." And me going, "Well, Thursday doesn't really work. And can he do Sunday or can he do Monday? No." And I just don't want to do it. That's what Draymond is doing. Draymond is taking one of the greatest things he has in his life, his professional life at least,
Mm-hmm.
and he's basically going, "No, I don't want to do it."
And to an extent, just thinking that he can get by doing the same thing that he's always done, just being this sort of
But
specific role guy, but he's not
it
adapting,
goes
right?
back to what
Yeah.
you said before. Father Time is undefeated. And that goes for average players too. And Draymond is an average player who got rich.
And it's man, him and Chris Paul are both slow.
But I also remember talking about this with Floyd Money Mayweather and Conor McGregor, and not to stray too far from basketball, but I remember somebody saying to me once, Conor changed when he got his 100 million. And I said, yeah, when you get your 100 million, and this is where it ties back to Draymond, you don't want to put in the work anymore. You'd rather go sit in your mansion, put on your fancy robe with your nice slippers, and you want to retire. And if you look at it, I don't know how big a UFC fan you are. Conor McGregor was never the same after he got that $100 million payday from Floyd
Hmm.
Money Mayweather.
I couldn't agree more
And
with all of that.
and Draymond hasn't been the same player since he got his 100 million from the Golden State Warriors because you don't want to put in the work anymore.
And I think it makes you a bit loopy. No, like nobody should have that much money. No, it's just no reason for it. So I think it does something to the human brain that's it's just inevitable. It's too much power will corrupt anybody. It's like too much money does break a little part of your brain. I think there's this joke that a comedian named Patton Oswalt told about Joe Rogan getting that big Spotify deal, and he's I don't understand why people are giving so much heat to Rogan about this COVID, this and that. He's if somebody gave me $100 million, I'd be up in a and he just starts rattling off all these ridiculous things because yeah, exact. It's very true that not many people came up with $1 million in their bank account, and then suddenly you have 100 million of them like that. You're just not normal anymore. So I
No,
think for
and
NBA
I get
players, they like Ben Simmons, Pascal Siakam.
and I can't speak for you, G, but I'll speak for myself here. If I had a million ducks in the bank and you text me and said, "Hey, it's at the buzzer night," I'd be like, "Buddy, I'm going out for dinner. You can join me if you want to."
We're doing it live
Uh,
from the ACC.
I'm just saying, like your work ethic changes when you have that kind of money,
I think
myself included.
depending on your character as you develop, right? Maybe we would still do it because we're like, this is what we'd be doing no matter what. And it's not enough for us to be distracted doing other things. Maybe every other part of life changes except this one part, right?
The
With
production
guys,
value on the show, let me put it to you like that for sure.
that's that exactly. So I think guys like Michael Jordan, money didn't affect them. Again, they didn't get the same kind of fu money early on as these young players, but um, a lot of them once they get that first contract, you do see a full on drop off, and it can be pretty harsh sometimes. And the Raptors are uh, have fallen victim to
I
that just because I
remember
know them the most. But yeah,
I remember when Timothy Mozgov got $64 million from the Lakers. And I was like, why are we paying Timothy Mozgov $64 million? He's not worth $64 million. And as soon as Timothy got that contract, no disrespect, Timothy, I got a lot of love for you because you're a good player, or you were a good player because you don't play anymore. But as soon as he got that $64 million, he's like, I'm set, I'm good, we're good, let's go home.
and exactly right. So many football players too. Just this ain't worth it. Like, it's understandable, but as a team that's paying you, and as a fan that's wanting the team to win, and all of that, it is beyond frustrating to see somebody making 30, 40, $50 million a year just cash out and just not even play anymore, not be that person that earned them the money because it's supposed to continue going.
See,
It's not supposed to stop once you get the money.
Tyler Hero
Well,
is in my mind. He's a good guy. Because even if the talent's not there, Tyler's gonna give me something every night. He's gonna try.
okay.
And I'm not saying he's worth the money because he's not. I want to make that clear right now. He's not worth the money, but at least when I watch him play, he's giving me effort.
Okay, I
There
haven't
are
watched
players
any of the Heat, so I couldn't speak to that because I was going to use him as an example
no,
of
and he's
somebody
hurt.
that got
And
got
he's
his
hurt,
bag,
remember.
and I still have an issue with that. You spent all last year hurt, now you're hurt again. Even and then the season before that, when he got his money, his numbers went down drastically.
All I hear is AD's career arc.
As who?
I said all I hear is AD's career arc.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hero's an interesting example, man. He got paid a lot of money. We're talking a lot of money. I can't remember what it was, but one of the biggest young person contracts in the league. And then he
Mm-hmm.
immediately started just dropping off and then got injured and then got injured. So to me, he's almost an example of somebody that, yes, earned it and then suddenly just disappeared. Um,
And that's what I mean. Your work ethic does change.
yeah, unless you're a true dog. And usually those guys aren't your most talented players, so they never get those big contracts. Draymond's one version of breaking the mold. He's a dog guy that actually got a big contract,
That
and that's just very
that's
unusual.
that's my problem.
Hmm.
And people call this self-deprecating. I call it self-aware.
Mm.
I'm not the most talented guy in the world. I do the
Depends at
YouTube
what.
thing because I enjoy it. But I will say this: I'm that dog that if you need me, I'm going to be there. That's the difference.
And those are the, I don't want to say winners, but they are winners. It does help you get to what you actually want to be doing just by being the guy that just shows up the most. Yeah.
I guarantee you, there. I could name 20 people that I know that are more talented than me. But the difference is when those guys are slacking, I'm doing YouTube videos.
Yeah.
When those guys are slacking, I'm at the radio station.
And when your opportunity comes of whatever opportunity it is that you're looking to manifest, you'll be as ready as anybody.
Yeah. So I don't let somebody's talent dictate my spot in the universe
Mm.
because my spot in the universe is I'm going to outwork that guy.
And that's what I think gets these guys to their contracts. And then some people it changes and some people it doesn't once they get that contract. It's interesting to see
See,
who
I don't
changes.
I joke, but I don't think I'd change. I think I'd still be the I got to keep myself busy.
I think a good example would be then comparable for you would be Jokic, right? That guy got his whatever huge contract, but you'd never know it. You'd never
And
know it.
the reason I couldn't change or the reason I don't think I'd change is because you've heard me talk about this before. It wouldn't be fair to my audience.
Mm.
And by that, yeah, we get about 20 views a week right now on this podcast. That'll go up over time. But for those 20 people that click on this video, they deserve the best content possible.
It'll
That's
be
why
there.
I don't think I would change
Yeah.
because the objective doesn't change. And as long as the objective doesn't change, then you're okay. But I think what happens to a lot of these NBA players is they get their money and then the objective changes.
Hmm. It's winning is cool and all, but they're like, man, it's not the priority anymore.
No, I got
Winning.
my money.
And then you see a guy like Tyrese Maxey, and you're like, oh, that's a guy that wants it. Jalen Suggs, and you're like, that guy wants it. Like the objective has not changed for them.
I rem I was actually because I go through the YouTube sports shorts every once in a while, and I came across a clip of Allen Iverson today,
Mm.
and it's and this is where I respect AI because he was being asked, he's you have a reputation for skipping practice. Everybody makes fun of him for the practice thing, and he goes, "No, I didn't skip practice." He said sometimes they'd be running drills and I didn't feel like doing it because I was at the club too much, or I just didn't do it. I'm
Mm.
human. And one of the things he said was, I ain't Kobe.
Mm.
He said, when we were out at the club, Kobe was in the gym. And that's what made him special because AI is, you can't fault me for being human. I love the game, but I'm not gonna sell myself short to perfect my craft. And at
Yeah.
least he was being honest about it. Because the
Yeah.
guy said, because the guy said, so, because he tried to call AI out. And all AI said in return was, what am I supposed to lie to you to make it look glamorous? He
Man,
said,
have you?
no.
Yeah. And there's more to that one too. I think if it's the clip in question where that whole clip got taken of practice, you talk about practice. Like the beginning part to that was his friend had just died that day and he missed practice. And they're like, oh, why weren't you in practice? And he's, yeah, I played the game, but I'm not in practice because my friend died. Like, what don't you get about that? You're just talking about practice here. I'm trying to, get over my friend dying. And the media just took out that one part of practice, talking about practice. And isn't it amazing that you can change somebody's whole identity and work ethic by just taking one snippet of something out of context,
and
and like
and that's the thing. Like AI is honest. Like I still make fun of him for the practice thing too, because it's fun.
it's infamous. It got played more than the pop songs at the time. Like it was everywhere, and it was literally in reference to a fucking day his best friend died. Like crazy that the media had that power at the time to could just rip that, and couldn't
And
happen
and
these
they
days,
still
but
do,
to an extent.
and
But
they
at
still
least
do.
YouTube would have had some sort of, there would have been a Twitter uproar saying watch this whole clip, you'll see, but there was only one narrative at that time, and it was like, yeah, Allen Iverson doesn't practice, when in reality it was much closer to what you're saying. He was human, he practiced as much as anybody, but he wasn't a psycho practice like Kobe, he wasn't MJ, he wasn't in the gym
A-
23
And
hours a
I think
day.
and I think that's where as NBA fans we have to lower our expectations, because these guys do have lives off the court as well. And we're sitting there going, "Oh, this guy needs to improve his game." Meanwhile, we're not the guys that have to tax our bodies and go in the gym and do it.
But we're not the ones getting paid $30 million. There's always
Ah,
that.
that's true. That's
That's where
true.
I'm like, there becomes that fair thing of we're allowed to demand and criticize things from afar because they've signed the contract of, hey, I think I'm worth this and you think I'm worth this, so I'm going to sign here and uphold,
You're using my logic against me with the whole Jakob Pertl thing from earlier. You signed the deal, the
yeah,
expectations come with it.
yeah. And so when we're fans and we're just like, hey, where's your side of the deal here? We're paying for your salary essentially. Every
I
last
have a
Raptors
question.
fan.
Do you think I'm harder on Pertl because of his contract and his mediocre numbers?
I think they go
Like,
hand in hand, right?
if Jakob was making $10 million, let's even cut his salary in half and say he makes 10 million. Am I as hard on Jakob Pertl today if he's not making 20 million?
I don't think you would be. It would still be an annoying piece worth criticizing, but it wouldn't be as much, I don't think, because it's 10 million. I think it still would be overpaid, though, to be honest, just from what I've seen this year.
I would agree. I'm just trying to figure out if I'm too hard on Jakob, but he took the
No,
money.
he took the money and they paid him, and it's just not working out in any way. He's just not tough in there. He's not. I don't know. Him and Schroeder look good for a little while, but consistently, he's just
I,
not tough
I
enough.
warned you about Dennis Schroeder. I warned you about Dennis Schroeder.
Yeah, you're right. There is inconsistencies with him too, but I see more issues with Pirtle, Siakam.
Pirtle's issues
Yeah,
are consistent. That's why we notice them more.
yeah, yeah,
Like Pirtle is who Pirtle's gonna be.
yeah. Unfortunately, so right, which is I thought would be at least better than this, and I think the Raptors did too. And it's just been that across the board for a team like the Raptors, whereas other teams have been shocked and surprised by certain guys, like Dallas drafting this lively guy, and it's, oh my god, this guy's a rock star right away. Chet, his first season in, people are like, oh, he's already a difference maker. Who knew that he'd be this good this soon? Raptors just don't have any of that. It's, oh, this guy isn't having that good of a season. Oh, this guy is taking a drop. It's just there's no bright spots. And I think for a team like the Raptors, that's the danger. For fan base, similarly, it's when all the lights are going out. Ooh,
I hate
it
to
gets
say
dark.
this. I hate to say this, but I put the Raptors in the same category as the Charlotte Hornets.
It feels like that right now.
They're just
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
They're just there, G.
yeah. And I think that's what the players feel like too. And the one it hurts the most I see is Scotty. But it's, man, then do something about it. Be Suggs about it every night. Be an
Yeah,
animal.
it's easy to say that, but take a lion in the zoo for example. If you're being fed every day, you're gonna lose that luster of the hunt eventually because you don't have to do it. And I
Yeah,
think right now Scotty's realizing he doesn't have to go on the hunt because the rest of the team ain't gonna go with him.
and it's not worth, yeah, doing the whole effort of getting into hunt mode if you're gonna just come up failing because your pack isn't coming with you.
I still think Scotty is that dude. I
There's no
I
doubt he can
I
be
re-
that dude. There's no doubt he can be that dude.
why go into hunt mode if the rest of the pack isn't coming?
Yeah, and there's no actual opportunity to catch that animal. It's just it's going to be a bunch of used energy for what?
Because how many times have we started the game going, okay, maybe this will be the day the Raptors will break out of their funk, and then all of a sudden they're down 12 early in the second quarter again.
Yeah, it did not start pretty. It looked
It
so,
go
like
it
ugh,
it never starts pretty.
they were like 3 steps behind them on like just
Our best game was game 5 against Milwaukee. Remember that? And I
mhm.
told you it would be, and it stood the test of time to this point.
Yo, that's a good receipt actually. That's a fact. Oh man. Yeah, so when we look around the league, you got Charlotte and Toronto, just Detroit. Just sad, right? Just sad adrift, doing nothing. Nobody wants to even talk about them other than us. Back
We
on the
should
other
do an
side,
NBA panic index of all 30 teams.
and I wouldn't even put the Raptors at a panic right now because it's just sad. It's just where's that part of the category? They've passed the
Just
point of panic.
chilling.
They've become numb. Right. They're just numb. They're just ready to be 500 forever by the looks of things.
500 forever. A true Raptor story.
Ooh, that could be a dangerous one, man. It really could be. Is there any
Maybe that will be our next at the buzzer like quick hit. Why 10 reasons why the Raptors will finish 500.
that's yeah, yeah, Pascal. Any hot takes on your favorites so far to win the ship of the in season tournament or the big championship?
I'm losing faith in Philly as far as the in-season tournament goes. They have not impressed me at all. And you know what?
Indiana just clinched their division. That
I
Philly's
know the
in.
Lakers are I know the Lakers are 4 and 0 and I know they're going to finish atop their division, but they haven't impressed me either.
No, theirs is on borrowed time, and I don't know. We know how I feel about them. So, not the Lakers. What do you got?
I really don't know what to think about this in-season tournament. I haven't watched too many Eastern Conference in tournament games, but
Funny some
yeah, I
things.
just
Indiana's the first to clinch. They wouldn't be a bad bet.
yeah, they would. Yeah, they're a bad bet.
Watch the highlights. They're hungry. They
Uh,
hungry. Young guys want that 500,000. Remember what we were saying about money logic? These guys want and need it. They don't have any big contracts on there other than Halliburton, and he put in 26 and a quarter.
Give me the
And
field against Indiana, and I'll show you that it's all smoke and mirrors.
they just cleaned the whole division. They're 4-0, I think, or 3 or 4-0.
Yeah, so are the Lakers. Doesn't mean anything.
True. Um, who so
Anyway, G,
who do you got to win the big chip then?
I really all of a sudden I like Milwaukee.
Even without any changes or anything like that, just as it stands?
See, the reason being though is it's almost like they're rotating guys in and out to keep them fresh. And I don't know if it's an accidental injury on purpose or if they're just like finding ways to manipulate the system. But I'm telling you right now, G, the Bucks could be the freshest team come playoff time, and that could make a difference.
It's always been something in the back of my mind is whoever can stay the freshest and still have chemistry as a team is going to have the best odds to win the championship. Denver proved it last year. We'll see who proves it this year, but they would be a good candidate that way. Of they've got the X factor. clutch. They've got the clutchest player in the league. And on the other side, like OKC could be a fun dark horse pick because Shea is that dude when it comes to crunch time. And if there's a bunch of close games, they're going to win a bunch of them.
And on that note, G, we've hit the buzzer here.
Oh,
So until next time, may your ego come from a place that keeps you humble. I'm Mo Money. My co host, as always, for the ninth week in a row. G, he'll be back soon. And as far as the Raptor rundowns are going, one thing I didn't factor in was scheduling conflicts. So we'll get Raptor rundowns when we get them. But until next time, Mamba out. That's all I got at this point.
that's all you